Good morning. And I was thinking what we're going to discuss this morning. And we discussed a little bit what is genuine, authentic Dharma last night. And today, I think it's really important since we all practicing Mahayana Buddhism, especially Tibetan Buddhism, we really focus on the motivation and learn how to really generate positive motivation. Or sometimes I use excellent motivation. It is really important to begin to examine our motivations, whether we're listening to the teachings or contemplating the teachings or meditate. It's so important to examine why we practice. What's the purpose? Why we are here today, listening this teaching or learn something about death and the Dharma. Sometimes we just come to the teachings or listening the teachings without examining our motivation. If we do not examine our motivation, we cannot enter the Mahayana vehicle or Vajrayana vehicle. So it is something so important to make sure whenever we sit down on our cushion or entering the center to receiving some teachings from Tibetan Lamas, the first thing is, why am I here? What's my motivation? Is my motivation for my own purpose? To free from these worldly fears and suffering, pain that I am experiencing? Or I am here to really learn this genuine Tibetan Buddhism to help myself and all others. So if our motivation is just freeing our fears and worldly pain and suffering, it's not proper motivation. We really needed to change that. That's what in Tibetan Buddhism we call it non-virtuous motivation. We really need to make sure to examine the motivation. If our motivation is neutrality, just like following dogs, following the owner kind of motivation, okay, my Dharma brothers and Dharma sisters are going to the center, it seems like fun. No positive or negative motivations, that's neutrality. That motivation is not going to harm or creating any negative karma, but also that motivation is not going to create any merit or virtuous karma either. So therefore, we should not let our motivation be just like dogs are following the owner or master. So making sure whenever we sitting on the cushion in our own shrine room, doing the daily practice, or come to the center, generate bodhicitta. Aspirational bodhicitta, engaged bodhicitta. But to be able to practice engaged bodhicitta, we have to have this aspirational bodhicitta. But also actualizing aspirational bodhicitta, we really need to work on for measurable practices. Having this positive, excellent motivation for all sentient beings. So those are really important. if we really habituate, generate positive motivations, such as for measurable practices and aspirational bodhicitta practices, then automatically, sooner or later, we will be able to practice genuine, authentic Vajrayana Buddhism. So, beginning of our spiritual journey is going to be genuine, authentic. And the middle of our spiritual practice and the journey is going to be authentic. And then the end of our spiritual journey is going to be authentic and genuine. So, therefore, I encourage all of you to habituate generating this positive motivation. And Allison will clarify more depth what excellent motivation in general, what aspirational bodhicitta is. So sometimes I teach well the Bodhisattva and the 37 practices of Bodhisattva a lot. Especially I have been teaching well the Bodhisattva since I came to this country. Because that is the most profound practice for Vajrayana Buddhists to build the solid foundation to practice this genuine, authentic Dharma tradition which came from Tibet. All those realized masters of Nyingma, Gajit, Gelu, Sakya, or four religious masters, really embody the way of the Bodhisattva path. Therefore, they are being able to maintain this authenticity of Vajrayana Buddhism until today. So in the West, also we should have that responsibility to think how, not just like your spiritual path, your individual spiritual path, we really need to think how we can maintain this genuine Buddhist tradition came from Tibet. How we can root in this lineage. So if we really want to root Buddha Dharma in the West, well, the Bodhisattva, path, missing this or lacking this practice, we cannot get anywhere. So therefore, of course, we will discuss bodhicitta or lojong more today and tomorrow, but I really want all of you to just be here physically, mentally, emotionally, and watch your motivation and examine your motivation and generate this motivation to begin the teaching for today.
So Rinpoche started out asking us, why do we practice? Why are we here? Why are we listening to the Dharma? And if we can get used to reviewing these kinds of questions every time that we sit down to practice, this can really help us to cultivate our motivation. And in the Tibetan language, the word which is used to describe the cultivation of the motivation is something more like refining or elevating our motivation in a sense, because it recognizes that the motivation that we start out with isn't the motivation that is going to be proper for practice. Even if we talk about just starting with an excellent motivation, it's a really vague idea. right? So if we start out talking about an excellent motivation, maybe we sit down to practice and we have some feeling of faith or devotion in the practice. We think it might help us. We have generally, hopefully we have some positive feelings about sitting down to practice, although some days probably we don't feel good when we sit down to practice either. So even starting out with an excellent motivation is something we have to cultivate. So we have to be mentally prepared when we sit down and think. Probably at first, Rinpoche mentioned, like, am I sitting down for my own benefit? For example, am I sitting down because I'm suffering a lot? Am I sitting down to practice because my life is painful? I would say that that's a reality. Probably most of us, when we first start practicing the Dharma, we're sitting down on the cushion because we are afraid of who we are. Like, we've seen ourselves do terrible things. I can say that for myself. Like, I mostly started practicing the Dharma because I thought my behavior is not acceptable to me. The person I am is not acceptable to me, and I need to do something to really retrain my mind and my heart. So definitely I was sitting down for my own purpose. I was not thinking about how do I benefit sentient beings, how do I place sentient beings in the state of enlightenment, this really lofty motivation of bodhicitta. So we have to understand, like, when we talk about motivation, this is a practice. It's a practice because when we first start coming to the Dharma, maybe if you're like Rinpoche and you grow up in Tibet and you hear about bodhicitta since you're a child, then maybe it's natural to every time you sit down and practice think, my practice is for the benefit of others. But when you come to Dharma from a culture where Dharma isn't what everyone practices, I mean, you're sitting down to practice because nothing else has been working. You know, you decided to come to Buddhism because, you know, all the other things that you've been trying have, you know, sort of left you the way you are. And that was my experience also. So certainly I wanted to retrain myself. And I think even, you know, I've been with Rinpoche 19 years, and I would say, like, in the last few years, I really feel like bodhicitta has started to become more natural. But a lot of years, it wasn't still not my first thought when I sat down to practice. Still, I had an excellent motivation. I think I felt good about my practice. I felt like I wanted to benefit others. But maybe I'm still not having this really specific motivation. I want to place all sentient beings in the state of enlightenment free of suffering. And the reason why that's difficult to do is because if I'm going to place all sentient beings in the state of enlightenment free of suffering, I have to give up a lot of myself. And there's lots of things that I might want, or things I want them to be the way I want them to be, and that conflicts with placing all sentient beings in the state of suffering, or free of suffering. And especially, you know, there's a lot of times when we're interacting with a person, maybe we care about that person, you know, even maybe our spouse or someone that we love a lot, or an ordinary friend, and we have to choose between what we can do that would make them happy and what we can do that makes us happy. And if we're really training in bodhicitta, we should be able to choose the other person. But a lot of times we can't, you know, because we're so concerned with our own fear, or with our own patterns, or with our own needs. You know, those really consume us. And so this teaching on motivation and refining or elevating the motivation, this is really everything in the Dharma. Because according to the Lojong teachings on mind training, which is kind of what Rinpoche was introducing last night, it's the ability to focus on others that brings us happiness. So this habit that we have of always worrying about ourselves, or how we're going to deliver ourselves from our own fear, our own discomfort, our own unhappiness, this is the very habit that makes us miserable. So if we were able to transform our motivation over time to more naturally think of others, we would be delivering ourselves from our own suffering at the same time. But there's something about the mentality that we have in this country, the way that we're raised, where that idea is just terrifying. And we think, but if I focus on others, no one's going to care about me. If I focus on others, I'm not going to be okay. And we have all these reasons why we shouldn't do it. And, you know, so a lot of struggle, I think, between the Dharma and the culture that we're raised in. And it's just something that if we are going to commit to practice, it's something that we have to get through. You know, something that we have to start to experience. When I do focus on others and focus less on myself, I actually feel better, and that's something that we have to examine and find to be true. And when we do find that to be true, then I think this idea of cultivating the motivation, elevating the motivation, is a practice that we can continually train in. But certainly, to be able to get yourself to sort of effortlessly think about bodhicitta is not an easy thing to achieve. And in fact, this is the realization of the great spiritual masters. When we think about a great spiritual master, if we take the example of the Dalai Lama, or for example, in our Longshan Nyingtik lineage, Patrul Rinpoche is an example of, everyone was an example of mastering bodhicitta, but Patrul Rinpoche really made himself show that he was mastering that. That was one of his great enlightened activities. You know, and that's what they realized. They could effortlessly put others before themselves. They didn't have any fear about what would happen to them. They didn't have any sense of needing to protect themselves, needing to make sure things were okay for them. And that's why they were great practitioners. You know, they really achieved fearlessness and love and compassion. So that's the level of realization we're thinking about. And none of us is there, obviously. But we can, when we think about this practice of training in the motivation, that's the direction that we're going. But we definitely need to do some examination on our own part and find out if that's true. I mean, do I feel better when I focus on others? Not in a resentful way, not in a way of being a martyr, but when I really focus on others, I'm worried less about my own feelings, my own sense of how things are supposed to be. Does that make me feel better? And for myself, I can say absolutely, but I can't say that that's everyone here's experience, but I hope so. I hope people are investigating that. So in the Dharma, the motivation is seen to be the most fundamental thing, because it is said that whatever seeds you plant, the result is going to ripen in accordance with that. There's a lot of examples given, like you can't plant an apple seed and expect to get a peach tree. If you plant an apple seed, you're going to get an apple tree. So if your motivation is positive, the result is going to be positive. It's just like planting an apple seed. You can expect what you're going to get. And so, you know, training in a positive motivation benefits you the most. You know, because if you do something positive, of course, sooner or later, the result is going to be positive. You might not see it right away. Might not seem right away like that's what's happening, but if you have a long-term view, that's what will happen. So then our goal becomes to make that seed more and more refined. In the beginning, it's abstract. You know, we're practicing, we're sitting down to practice because we want to feel better, we have general good feelings in mind, and then slowly we turn that to open that up. You know, thinking about others' welfare, thinking we also wish other people would be happy. Rinpoche mentions the practice of the four immeasurables, so we'll talk about that. But we sort of try to open that motivation up. So we're elevating the motivation a little bit. We can try to let people in a little bit, focus a little bit less on ourselves, and share whatever we have, wish for others to share that. You know, and then we keep elevating that. So we never stop refining the motivation. What we want is to achieve that level of the lineage masters where they're fearless and don't care about anything. But, you know, we can have that as sort of our beacon and just go in that direction. And Rinpoche asked me to clarify the difference between an excellent motivation and aspirational bodhicitta. So I'm going to do that. Hopefully I'm saying what Rinpoche wishes me to say, but according to the Longshan Nyingtik teachings, the aspirational bodhicitta has 4 main characteristics. And so when we check in our own mind, we can see if these 4 characteristics are there or not. And then that helps us see the difference between the motivation we have and what bodhicitta is. So the first is a vast focus. So if it's really aspirational bodhicitta, we're focusing on the welfare of every single sentient being, without exception. We haven't left any sentient being out. There's no sentient being we think is undeserving. There's no sentient being we think they should keep suffering because they did something terrible. Or I'm threatened by that person, so they don't get to be in my motivation of bodhicitta. We have to have the same wish for every single sentient being. It has to be an equal wish to place all of them in a state of enlightenment free of suffering without leaving anyone out. And so that would be the first quality of aspirational bodhicitta. So already when we look in our own mind, probably we can see, there's a big gap between where we are and there, but we can just slowly increase that. We can slowly make it bigger. I mean, definitely when I think about, just to use a really extreme example, if I thought about Mao Zedong, for example, or Hitler, it's harder for me to wish that person to be in this state of enlightenment than it is a person I love. So, but we still, the bar for aspirational bodhicitta is that the focus is the same for everyone. No matter what I think that person's personally done to me or personally done to the world, I have the same wish. And then the second quality is a vast benefit. So our ordinary wishes, this is taken from Way of a Bodhisattva chapter 1. Shantideva says, no, our parents, our loved ones, our teachers, all of them have just raised us to worry about ourselves. But nobody had the wish for bodhicitta for us. Nobody wished to place us in a state of enlightenment. So bodhicitta is the greatest benefit. It provides the greatest benefit. So we're not having ordinary wishes for sentient beings. We're not just thinking, can they just be relieved from suffering right now? Can they be happier right now? We're thinking, may all sentient beings be placed in the state of perfect enlightenment free of suffering. May they be endlessly free of suffering. May they have complete spiritual realization. May they have complete happiness that's unchanging. Not ordinary happiness, but this peace of mind that's unchanging. And so again, we're not thinking of this vast benefit just for the people that we love, or the people that we know, or the people we think are deserving. We're thinking of it for everyone. No matter what we think they've done to us, or the world, or what we think that they've done in their lives, we have the same wish for this vast benefit. Third quality of aspirational bodhicitta is vast courage. So we have the courage to remain in the ordinary world for as long as it takes to achieve this wish. And there's some traditional stories in the Dharma. For example, Avalokiteshvara, he's a great bodhisattva. And Avalokiteshvara was really training in aspirational bodhicitta when he was on the bodhisattva bhumis. And he was trying to empty samsara of all sentient beings and place them all in a state of enlightenment. And he would reach a state where he thought samsara was completely empty and he had benefited every single sentient being, and then suddenly he would realize that samsara wasn't empty and that still beings were suffering. That it was endless. This work of training in bodhicitta was endless. And so in the story, Avalokiteshvara's ordinary body, his body shatters because he's so devastated, he's so sad by the fact that he's been unable to empty the samsara. And then later he re-manifests, and he has 10 heads and 1,000 hands and eyes, which helps him to see more and benefit more beings. So symbolically, he has more eyes to see, more hands to help. And this is symbolic of his great courage. So he's renewed his courage to keep benefiting sentient beings, even though he couldn't empty samsara completely. So it's just an example of the kind of courage that we have to have when we see all of the terrible things that are happening in the world around us. We still have to have the courage to benefit those beings, even though we don't know how that's possible. And then vast time. So samsara, this ordinary world that we live in, the way that things are, this is said to be endless. And so also, we have to maintain our bodhicitta in an endless way. There's no time at which we're going to get to just stop and think like, I'm finished. I completed my spiritual development. I completed what I was doing for sentient beings, and now I'm done. So these 4 qualities of aspirational bodhicitta can give us a sense of what a huge motivation this is. And that's why when we talk about cultivating or elevating the motivation, there's no expectation that this is where we are when we start practicing. You know, when we sit down to start practicing, probably most of us are more like me, which is like, oh, I'm practicing because I feel bad right now, or like I'm having a lot of personal suffering and I want that to get better. So motivation is something that we're going to take as a main practice from now until we reach that level of Patrul Rinpoche, or until we reach that level of the Dalai Lama, where we're just, you know, we're okay with how long it takes. We're okay. And then, you know, if we gain that confidence that the more I benefit others, the better I feel, then these things don't seem so hard anymore. You know, oh, I'm just actually going to keep feeling better and better. It's going to take forever, but I'm going to just keep feeling better and better the longer it takes. And we also start to have a sense of that this practice of bodhicitta, it seems like we're focusing on ourselves less and less, but we're getting more and more from it. You know, we're feeling better and better from it, even though we're not trying. So, you know, I just wanted to bring up this, you know, how difficult this level is of bodhicitta, and how difficult it is to achieve it, and how difficult it is to really want to do that. And that's a reality. And that's why it's something that we focus on and we train in a daily basis. And it's a main part of our practice. It's something that we have to come back to over and over and over again. And so I'll let Rinpoche talk more about that. I'm sure that's the direction he's going. Sorry, 11 heads. I looked at 11 heads. I'm wrong. I'm sorry about that.
So, yeah. Embodying that quality takes many years. Really?
Let's.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that for sure.
Yeah.
There's a light.
Fine. Okay.
Sergio, the extra batteries are actually underneath the side table.
Okay. I see them.
In a little cup. But there should be a cup of extra batteries.
Maybe you're thinking, is this for death and dying? It is, absolutely it is. It's more than individual death and dying. We're trying to habituate a big power to serve all beings who are facing suffering. And developing this quality, being able to remain in this samsara for all sentient beings. If we can embody this quality, there's no fear when we're facing death and dying. Because our mind is completely embodying the bodhicitta, the way of the bodhisattva path and the practice, like Avalokiteshvara, and like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and those realized masters. Whatever they do from the morning, almost 24 hours, their life, their body, speech, and mind is dedicated for others' benefit. So there's no fear. The fear what we have is coming from our self-attachment. That is the root of samsara. That is going to be the obstacle if we cannot really eradicate that feeling what we have all the time. I'm going to suffer. and I'm going to lose this, I'm going to lose that, and I'm going to have a lot of sufferings when I'm facing death and dying. Not really developing this quality to focus on others, how to benefit others, how to help others. So all the pain, suffering, mental, physical, emotional suffering we're experiencing every single moment is coming from self-attachment, want to protect ourselves. It's a completely opposite of bodhicitta what we were just discussing. Bodhicitta embodying that quality, being able to face any tragedy or suffering or pain. Even if we're in like a really, really serious war or some kind of like a tragedy, the quality of our mind is completely embodying the bodhicitta. So there's no obstacle for us not being able to remember the path of the Dharma. We're always being able to remain or embody that quality. This is the greatest way to facing death and dying. This is the greatest way to really actualizing the Buddha Dharma. So you were maybe expecting I'm going to share some like Zangmo or Mahamudra, something like liberate when you're facing death and dying like that. Even if I have something like that, but if we're not prepared, this is the fundamental thing that we need to develop. If we lack in bodhicitta, then it's really hard to actualize the Vajrayana, Dzogchen or Mahamudra, or inseparability of the Great Middle Way. It's really hard. Our four lineages, we have the most profound teachings, but it's good to read the biographies of the masters of four lineages. From a Nyingma point of view, how Longchenpa practiced the Vajrayana Buddhism and how he reached that level of realization. And read the biographies of second masters, Sakyapanchita, how he practiced the Buddha Dharma, and how did he realize that most profound practice of Sakya tradition. And read Jitsongpapa's biography, how he started the path of the Buddha Dharma, how he led out of Lama Rinpoche, and how he reached that realization of inseparability of Great Middle Way practice. And read Gandhi tradition. So if we read those biographies, there is a reason those masters really actualized the way of Bodhisattva, embodied the way of Bodhisattva, embodied the Bodhicitta as a strong foundation for those profound practice of those lineage, teachings, practices. So if we all want to prepare to face death and dying, prepare to help serve our loved ones or whoever asking us to help to die as a Dharma practitioner or spiritual way. We have to have that bodhicitta. I don't know any other ways to describe this ordinary bodhicitta. I cannot say ordinary bodhicitta. You will have some warmth in your heart. no matter where you are, no matter who you are with. And that tiny warmth, if you can gain that tiny warmth, you can be with any person, whether that person is loving or not loving or positive or negative. And that warmth in your heart can really generate warmth, like express that warmth and others can feel it. If we can develop that level, we can serve others. As you were saying, like you take care of people who are facing death and dying, like really like a tragedy, deaths. If we have that heart warmth, people feel it and they automatically calm down. Just think like thousands of people attending His Holiness Dalai Lama's teachings, and the minute you enter that room, see his smile, that warmth hits you, and you calm down. You feel everything is okay. That is what I'm talking about. That is the power of bodhicitta. That is something we should develop. If we can develop that quality, death and dying is a piece of a cake. But if we lack that quality, it doesn't matter we have a glimpse of understanding of Vajrayana, Mahamudra, Topachimbo, whatever masters teach. But we want to be able to focus. We want to be able to maintain that quality because our ordinary pattern and selfish thoughts and wanting to protect me, what's going to happen to me, is so strong, so powerful. There is no space to remember or to maintaining or abiding the realizations of Vajrayana path. We won't have space because we won't. We have this self-attachment. For example, like, okay, if we realize having a serious internal illness, then that self-attachment fear is going to completely occupy our emotions and mental qualities. So we want to be able to even remember, connect, how many others are also facing this exact illness and experience exact suffering. We won't. Maybe you have experience when you're so emotional, when you're facing some really, really serious situations. You're completely occupied by that and identify with that. And you're constantly pursuing that emotion and feeling. You won't be able to have a moment to think, okay, I need to work on bodhicitta. I need to bring the quality of bodhicitta. Even if you have that mindfulness and introspection, watching yourself, realizing you're in that emotion, you're already into the deepest, the bottom of that emotion and hard to get out. But most of the time, we won't be able to really remember the practice. So therefore, we really need to prepare to develop this quality. While we're begin the practice, or begin teaching, listening the teachings, and while we're practicing, if you have daily practice, Vajrayana practice, instructions, such as the Mahamudra, or whatever profound teachings you have received, you always need to go this way, parallel with bodhicitta. So important from the beginning of your practice, middle, and the end. It has to have that quality there. Then we really can face death and die. That really can help us to prepare any changes that is happening in our ordinary lives. That is the reason, and Buddha's teachings say we need to develop this skill using any circumstances as a positive condition to improving the path of Dharma. So bodhicitta or well-bodhisattva quality have that unique and have that quality. Help us to take any circumstances into the path. It needs a lot of mindfulness. It needs a lot of focus. It needs a lot of training. Constantly watch yourself. Think. Examine. Is my motivation according to the Dharma? Is my action according to the Dharma? Is my speech according to the Dharma? Am I accumulating negative karmas based on my actions, thoughts, emotions, and speech? We constantly need to think that. And if we are, we need to really make sure not pursuing those thoughts, speech, and emotions. Use the bodhicitta. Use this well-bodhisattva qualities to pacify that. Because Buddhism is about the karma. How we can limit the karma that we are constantly accumulating. We're constantly accumulating karma, mostly non-virtuous karma. We need to use bodhicitta and the Buddha path, Buddha Dharma path to limit or slowly really stop accumulating negative karma. Because in the Dharma and Buddhist teachings say, all the happiness or positive things that, virtuous things that are happening to us in this life is caused by positive actions, positive. Things that we have done in our previous lives. All those sufferings that we're experiencing, we share sufferings. We have individual sufferings. All are the cause of our previous actions. So we should not, and the Sutrayana teachings say, we should never let ourselves to think like, okay, this is a little bit negative and not a little bit dark, but it's not a big deal. It's okay. We cannot think that. Tiny fire can burn the whole building down. So tiny actions slowly become huge, negative, non-virtuous, and that can accumulate a lot of negative karmas. So therefore, using bodhicitta, helping us not falling into those non-virtuous actions, whatever negative actions existing this moment, using bodhicitta, pacifying that, and develop or accumulate more positive, virtuous karmas, and slowly, really limiting those patterns that we have. So I'm sure you have been listening while we were Bodhisattva teachings, I hope. But I really encourage all of you to work on that path, to build this strong foundation, whatever lineage teachings that you have been receiving, that you have been practicing. We have to have this quality of bodhicitta. Otherwise, Rinpoche said, if you lack the quality of bodhisattva and bodhicitta, it doesn't matter what skills you have on Vajrayana path, visualization or completion practice, but you end up in samsara because of the motivation. So therefore he insisted that Buddhist practitioners to actualize the well of Bodhisattva and the bodhicitta path of the Bodhisattva. So I'm sure you studied and listened, but listening over and over and over and over. Read the Rinpoche's biography. Shambhala Publication published his biography. And then read it. Get that book. It's not that expensive. Maybe $20. Or leave one in your library, or if you guys have a library. Read it. And you will find out how much Rinpoche worked on bodhicitta. How many times in his life he received the well of Bodhisattva teachings. And his main practice was the well of Bodhisattva path. Of course, top of that, he practiced the Rinpoche. He was one of the most realized Rinpoche master. But so if you read it, we need it. We need this to develop this skill to face death and die. That's the reason Rinpoche said, you na sangi to bla di chok, you na sangi to bla tap chok, but sangi to bla am manova, nam tap sham to central give us. If we have one thing, bodhicitta. If we lack it, we cannot really reach enlightenment. Therefore, we should pray day and night. Being able to embody this quality of bodhicitta. So just imagine, I do think this a lot. If I can embody the quality of the bodhicitta in this lifetime, when I'm facing death, how relaxed that is going to be. There's no fear. My body, speech, mind is dedicated for benefiting all sentient beings. So maybe I'm changing this form when I'm facing death and dying, and when the solutions are happening. I already planted that strong seed, have another form. Wherever I go, I have that quality with me. And serve others. And help others. And if I keep doing that, it doesn't matter what form I'm going to be. Reborn. I will always have this quality of bodhicitta. So, there's no difference reborn in Pure Land or this part of the world or another realm or whatever. The most important thing is this mind, ordinary mind, is going to transform into the quality of bodhicitta, then form or the place is not going to be a matter of the problem. The problem is when we're facing dying or facing some changes, this fear comes up because we're so attached to ourselves, and that is going to be the biggest obstacle of death and dying and everything, and the next life and the next life. So, maybe you should say.
So I just wanted to add a few things to Rinpoche's comments about bodhicitta before I talk more about karma. So one thing that Rinpoche was quoting to me the other day in the kitchen was a quote by Pacha Rinpoche. And Pacha Rinpoche said, so was speaking about one of the great benefits of bodhicitta, that when bodhicitta is in the mind, that there's no afflictive emotions present. So one of the great benefits of developing bodhicitta is not just what Rinpoche is talking about, of course, like fearlessness and planting the seed to benefit others from lifetime to lifetime, but really, if we think about what is causing our afflictive emotions, what is causing all of our suffering, we all know that it's our emotions. We all know that our emotions are driving us crazy. The most common way that we deal with that is to attribute blame to others, to think if that person wasn't doing this that way, I would be okay. But if we're really going to be serious about being a Buddhist practitioner, we slowly have to drop that way of thinking. And according to the Dharma, no matter what anyone does to us, no matter how anyone behaves towards us, or no matter what is happening around us, we are the ultimate determinant of our state of mind. You know, we're the one who has the ability to influence our own state of mind, or whether or not we're doing okay is up to us. And you know, the longer that we practice, we can be more and more, can have more conviction in that. But really, if we think about what Pacha Rinpoche is saying, if you develop bodhicitta, there's no afflictive emotions in the mind, because there's no room for them, like Rinpoche said. So just like if you're angry, there's no room for bodhicitta. If you're angry with someone, you definitely are not wishing to place them in a state of perfect enlightenment. You've degraded your bodhicitta because you've already sent that sentient being out of your heart. You don't care about that sentient being, you're angry with that sentient being. So bodhicitta and anger cannot exist at the same time. And so just in the same way, if we were able to achieve perfect bodhicitta, like the level of Pacha Rinpoche that we're talking about, he must be a person that's completely cut through all those afflictive emotions. And he's cut through all that suffering of afflictive emotions, because if you don't have any self-attachment, what's there to be upset about? What's there to be unhappy about? You're completely just, your entire state of mind is full of love. You're wishing for others to be happy. You know, there's no focus on, but what's happening to me? So we can just think about, again, sometimes when we talk about bodhicitta, it's such an overwhelming thing to think about embodying. You know, it's a huge and vast motivation, but we have to think about all the, you know, logically, like all the personal benefit, because otherwise it's going to be hard to keep doing, you know, to actually want to do it. But if we really think about all the personal benefits that come to us, well, the thing that all of us want, the reason we're here is because we want to find a way to deal with our emotions. We know our emotions are making us crazy. We know they're making us incredibly unhappy. And here we have a step-by-step way to train that's been set out by these great lineage masters. If we train in the state of mind of bodhicitta, all those afflictive emotions are going to be gone. Because logically speaking, they can't remain. You know, if we're 100% focused on the welfare of others, we couldn't be angry towards another person because we're focused on their welfare. You know, we couldn't have ordinary partiality because we have the same wish for everyone. That desire, that partiality all goes away. We couldn't be jealous because why would we be upset about someone else having something good? we're wishing for them to be enlightened. Why would we be upset about the good things that they have? You know, we couldn't be greedy. Why would we be unhappy about someone having abundance? Why would that be something to our detriment? Because we're totally just focused on the good things, wishing for good things for others. So all these ordinary ways of thinking that make us so miserable that just, moment after moment, we're jealous, or we're comparing, or we're thinking about I don't have enough, or that person has too much, or that person doesn't deserve it, I deserve this. All those ways of thinking go away because bodhicitta is this great equalizer, and none of that can remain with us. And we can give up those ordinary ways of thinking completely. So it's really worth thinking about, what is really causing my suffering? Is it really all these other people who are doing things that I think they shouldn't be doing? Or is it me? The way that I think about things, the way I want things to be, the way I want to control and manipulate everything. So if we should spend some time contemplating that, and hopefully that gives us some motivation to train further in this mind training, because it is a difficult thing to work on, especially when the thing that happens over and over again is you just have to realize how selfish you are on a daily basis. It's like, I'm unhappy, oh, I'm causing that. It can be difficult to see yourself that way, but it frees you up. Really, if you're going to spend your whole life blaming people for your unhappiness, then there is absolutely nothing you can do to change that unhappy state of mind you have. Because it's not about you, it's just about other people. And if they would just act the way you want them to, you would be fine. But that doesn't work. So bodhicitta is turning that completely upside down and thinking, no matter how sentient beings behave, I still want them to be in the state of enlightenment. I still want to benefit them. I don't care how they behave. I don't care if nothing's going the way I want it to. I'm not going to lose that conviction I have, because I know the greatest benefit is to me. If I can be free of my own, anger, desire, jealousy, ignorance, pride, all of these afflictive emotions that really hurt me, if I can break free of those things, how happy I would be and how much happiness I could give others. So it's really worth it to spend time reflecting on this, especially reflecting on, am I really the cause of my own suffering? Do I believe that? I can tell you that for a lot of years as a practitioner, I believed 85% I'm the cause of my own suffering. And then the other 15%, I felt like people did that. They made me suffer. And so it wasn't, I wasn't willing to accept I'm 100% the cause of my own suffering. But I think in recent years, I do believe that. I really do, and I believe it because I don't want to give that power over to other people anymore. If I say 15% of the time, those things were just too hard to deal with and they really caused my suffering and there's nothing I can do about it, enlightenment is actually impossible. Happiness is impossible, peace of mind is impossible, all the things that we talk about in the Dharma are impossible because we gave that to someone else and it's not the responsibility of our own mind. Our mind transforming couldn't get rid of those things, purifying our habits, changing our behavior, changing our habits. None of that can alleviate our suffering if we really believe other people caused it. So it's good to spend some time thinking about that. And absolutely, I agree with Rinpoche. This is the key for preparing for a spiritual death. Because again, at that moment that you're going to lose everything, do you want to be angry about the things that didn't go your way during your life? I mean, is that how you want to spend the last moments of your life? Do you want to have, past unresolved problems with your children, with your family, and then die knowing that they're carrying the grief or the guilt of those conflicts that you guys had? I don't think any of us want those things, but when we think about not giving up the habit of blame, I mean, that's the logical result. That's what will happen. We can predict it. And we've seen it happen. I mean, I saw it happen. I shared last night, I saw it happen with my mother. And I have a difficult relationship with my mother, and Rinpoche encourages me all the time to think about that. Think about your mother's death. Think about how you don't want that to be your experience when your mother dies. Think about what you can do for her, to make things better. It is difficult to apply those things personally. But these are things that we can do as a practitioner, and these are ways that we can, really think about that goal that we have. Like, what kind of person am I going to be when I die? What kind of practitioner am I going to be when I die? And there's things that we can do right now to really help ourselves. And the other topic that Rinpoche brought up that I wanted to mention was, he was talking about karma. And I think that for Westerners, we don't always have a lot of conviction in karma. Some of that could be like our Christian heritage. We think, from a Christian point of view, a lot of times like something can be done for us. The teaching on karma is that every seed we plant will have an important result. Nothing is done for us. Nothing is done to us. Everything that's happening is because we did it in the past, or we're doing it right now, and it's going to ripen in the future. So, in that way, when we think about our death, we should think the karma that I can't do anything about what I've accumulated in the past. Rinpoche said, whatever we're experiencing right now, we've already done it, and that's ripening, and that's our present. So our present state of mind is the sum of everything we've done until now. Can't do anything about it. I can only start now and go forward. But we can think of karma as being like a propelling force. So karma is pushing me in a certain direction. And you know that, like, it's logical. If I spend all my time right now being angry, I'm going to be angry tomorrow, I'm going to be angry the day after tomorrow. I mean, like, when's that going to end? Because that's what I'm investing all my energy in. So that's just karma, right? We're planting that seed and it's ripening and ripening and ripening. So if we think about karma propelling us forward, at the moment of death then, where we are and who we are at that time is because of what we've done on a daily basis in between that propelled us forward to that moment. So again, we really need to think about how much conviction we have in cause and effect. Do we really believe that right now the state of mind that I'm allowing myself to be in is going to ripen as my future suffering? Or do I feel like it's okay to excuse it? Well, I'm just having a bad day, or I can't help it. I'm not capable of doing better than this right now. Like, as a practitioner, we might start out in a place where we feel like there's nothing we can do, but it's not our goal to stay that way. Our goal, again, is through training and through practice to become a person who thinks, that habit of being selfish or having the strong emotions coming up, but I have lots of tools to change that. And then I can change the karma that's propelling myself forward. So we never have to worry about judging the person we are right now. Whatever's happened has already happened, and now we're this person right now. But we do have a lot of influence about where we're going and about what our state of mind is going to be in the future, and all of that has to do with the karma that we're accumulating. So the common theme in the Dharma, in the Lojong teachings, in talking about karma and bodhicitta is personal responsibility. As a Buddhist practitioner, our main goal is to be personally responsible for our own state of mind and for others. And to never switch into that way of thinking about externalizing blame. This is happening to me and there's nothing I can do about it. That person did it, and I can't change it, and I can't change my response to it. So we may be limited in our tools, we may be limited in our ability, but there is always something that we can do, right? Even if all we can do is sit down and work on our breathing and just try to slow down our emotional response, there's absolutely something that we can do even at the smallest level. But on the other hand, if we work on training in bodhicitta, knowing that the more we can train in that motivation, our afflictive emotions can't stay there. We can't have both at the same time. Then we're really going to make a lot of progress. And that's going to propel us in a really different direction towards the end of our life. You know, this next part of our life is going to be very different from the earlier part of our life. And I think that's what most of us want. I mean, if we think back, the life we've had, most of us are here because we don't want to keep repeating that life that we had. And there's a saying in the Dharma that says, for the practitioner who's training in bodhicitta, really training in authentic Dharma, we move from happiness to happiness. And that means that we're just going to gradually become happier people. And we can think back to the suffering of our prior life, and then but from today forward, we're going to be happier tomorrow than we were today. You know, we're going to have difficulties, but we're going to handle them better. Slowly, we're going to train our mind to handle them better. And definitely, at the time of death, even if we're sick, even if we've had a lot of difficulties, because of our maturity and our spiritual development, we're still going to be happier than we are right now. Because right now, we're people who are still really limited by ourselves, by our self-attachment. Our self-attachment is keeping us really unhappy. We're in the prison of self-attachment, and right now we still don't really know how to get any relief from that. So that's why we train in bodhicitta.
So we just discussed two things: how important this practice of the bodhisattva has, and maybe you were thinking like how this connect practicing bodhicitta and like thinking the cause and the effect, the karma. It is absolutely. If we really embody the bodhicitta, we're not going to accumulate more negative karma. That limits. The problem what we have to face death and the dying next life is we're constantly accumulating negative karma. We don't know how to limit that. We don't know how to stop accumulating negative karmas based on body, speech, mind. We're constantly accumulating non-virtuous karmas. Whether we believe in karma or not, that's what we have been doing since beginningless time. If we cannot find a way to limit that, and find a way to transform that habit, we're constantly, continuously going to wandering in samsara based on our emotions, negative emotions are cause, and then actions create negative karma, and we're riding those two wheels of wheel of afflictive emotions and a wheel of karma. We're continuously going to riding those and then wandering in samsara. To be able to transform that, bodhicitta is the most powerful practice. And also these two things is to help us to prepare having a strong foundation for our spiritual journey and preparing death and beyond. Maybe you're thinking, some of you are thinking like, okay, this is connected to down with confidence or living in down with confidence. So I'm not introducing like really talking about down with confidence yet. I'm trying to discuss how important living spiritually. That is the most important thing. Whatever we habituate now, if it's dharma, it's like spiritual, then that's going to be there when we're facing death and dying. And we have tools, we have skills to face that situation. If we continuously just letting ourselves falling into this pattern, chasing this pattern continuously, When we're facing death and dying, that pattern is automatically there. And we won't be able to face death and dying. It doesn't matter even like when a Shakyamuni is there telling you what to do. You won't be able to listen because your pattern is so strong. So what I think, or what Buddhism thinks is, focusing on now is the most important thing. Developing present moment is the most important thing. Not letting ourselves carry away by past things that we have done and distract by past, or having a whole bunch of expectations or fears for the future, and completely losing the moment we have. That's mostly we do. We either just clinging on the past and wanting something we used to have, or having a whole bunch of hopes or fears for future, and we completely losing mindfulness to focus on present moment. So preparing death and dying means be here, the present moment. If you have 10 years, do not worry about 9 years after this year. Just focus on this year. If you really work hard this year on the Dharma, the path of this year, and the second year, coming up, second year, is going to be much better. But if you lose to really focus on the present moment, like practicing, developing your spiritual this year or this month, next month you won't have another like a special moment to be able to just transform like that. No. Whatever we habituate now, then whether it's positive or negative, things follow that pattern. If we really work on mind training, really work on bodhicitta, really see how important to really be mindful, not accumulate negative karmas, then that helps us to really be here and focus. And that helps us to habituate. In Tibet, lamas, when they give teachings, of course, they talk about precious human life and all these things. We may talk a little bit this afternoon or tomorrow, but they really emphasize or encourage Tibetan people to focus on karma, not accumulating more karma. We already accumulated a lot of negative karmas. So to be able to really do that, a lot of mind training, a lot of bodhicitta practice. All the time, just to watch our pattern. When we feel we start to have negative thoughts, that's the cause. If we chase that, then we accumulate the karma. Then that pattern becomes stronger. Then we do that the same thing, again and again. So that's something we all need to think. And also this is the preparation for, in the book, Done with Confidence, Dharma Vision. It is the vision we should have. And we really need to have those visions to what kind of Dharma practitioner I want to be. Not just a wishy-washy one, on and off one. Sometimes practice, sometimes not. When we feel good and we want to practice, when we're like really having difficult situations, we completely forget and then just chasing the emotions. We really need to have those convictions. What kind of practitioner I want to be, you know? Just look around the world and the spiritual communities. And we are suffering. Whole world, all the beings on the world are experiencing suffering day and night. Many different levels. But we are not seeing there is a way to get out of that suffering. And we're not diligent enough. Using those teachings such as the Bodhicitta really help us to facing those and see things really different. But we're not, for some reason, seeing those. So therefore, I think those two things really important. And then I will take a break here and let some of you ask some questions. Maybe you have different questions, and then I will see from there. Yes, what's your name?
Donna.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question about the connection between bodhicitta and feelings of self-blame and guilt. And the connection there might not be clear to me. So,
Can you? I have a vague understanding, but can you give me more of an example? Like just articulate a little bit more.
well, everybody knows what self-blame is.
Yeah.
It's that guilty feeling that you could have done, should have done, didn't do, and now it's in the past. So, if you're going through that after a death, it can be difficult.
Right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Can you answer first, Michelle?
Yeah, you can answer first. Yes, absolutely. That's your culture.
Yeah. Well, I think that Rinpoche might be better at addressing the part about self-blame in connection with Samadhi. So maybe I'll just talk about it more generally and then let Rinpoche address that part.
Okay.
I think that from the point of view of the Dharma, whether we blame on the outside or on the inside, neither of that is helpful. It's like a distraction in a way, even though it's a really emotionally charged distraction. So it feels like it's not a distraction. It feels really real and visceral. But from the point of view of the Dharma, it's just avoiding the fact that right now I need to take care of what I need to do to not let that kind of same situation repeat itself. So it's like when we get involved in self-blame about anything, we can then avoid taking responsibility for the present moment, which is what Rinpoche is talking about. So like, whatever habits that I have, they've been happening until now. And from the point of view of the Dharma, all I can do is work from this moment on to purify or to change that habit. But if I'm involved in blaming myself, I can't focus on how to purify and change that habit because I'm just worried about this other situation that happened. I don't have any space to do that. I don't have any opportunity to do that. So from that point of view, even though it's an emotion, in a way I think sometimes Americans can feel okay about self-blame in a sense, even though it's painful, because you feel like I am doing something to change myself. You know, like I'm feeling bad about what I did and that helps me change. But from the point of view of the Dharma, it's not helping you change. You can regret it, and that's good, but then you have to just turn back to the present moment because the present moment is the only opportunity you have to not do the same thing again. And then on the other hand, if you just are invested in the self-blame that happened, while you're not paying attention to what's happening right now, you're definitely going to repeat it because you're not paying attention. So I think that's happening all the time. And the same thing happens with outer blame. So say you're not blaming yourself, but you're blaming on the outside. That person did that, and that's what I'm struggling with, right? So you're not paying attention to your involvement in this situation. You're just really focused or obsessed kind of with this emotional pattern. And then something's happening in your life now, and again, you're distracted. You're not paying attention. And you're going to be involved in the same way because it's your habit to be involved in that way. You haven't done anything to change that habit. So I think self-blame is probably one of the most painful things that we do to ourselves in this culture. It's really painful. But then we have this way of justifying it because we think like, it's something good in a sense. I'm blaming myself, I feel bad about it, and then I'm not going to do it again because I'm worried about how bad I'm focused on how bad I feel. And then we miss that part where we don't have any chance to change. So from the point of view of the Dharma, that bodhicitta that we feel, that love and warmth, is for us too. And we can forgive ourselves for making mistakes. But if we're going to forgive ourselves and then forget them and think like I was justified, like that's not helpful. But if we forgive ourselves and let them go and think, I'm going to do everything I can in this present moment not to repeat that mistake, then that's helpful. So it's like, I think it's just sort of taking the emotional charge out of it. That emotional charge of feeling bad, from the point of view of the Dharma, it's just actually more negative karma. It's actually the same thing as blaming someone else or doing something negative in the moment. You're just staying in that negative state of mind. So, I can really empathize with how you feel. So I just think all of us, when we feel better, we make better decisions. So staying in that emotionally charged state of mind clouds our judgment and doesn't let us make good decisions about how not to do the same thing. So I guess that's my answer, but Rinpoche, I thought maybe she was directly talking about like a loved one dying and sort of blaming her, having feelings of blaming herself for things maybe that were left undone or, towards the loved one who passed away.
Mm-hmm. Well, Allison's answer is really good. Good. Pretty good. But I think culturally it's really different. Like Tibetan culture is not exactly, we do, I think, blame ourselves, but not stuck. A lot of Western people are stuck completely blaming themselves. But instead of doing that, we should use logic. Shantideva said, if you can fix the past, what's the point to worry? That's true, right? If you can go to the past and undo every wrong things that you have done, what's the point to worry? If you cannot fix the past, again, he said, what's the point to upset? Both are almost exactly the same thing. So instead of blaming, I think we should put ourselves together, work on purification, and accept the reality. You made the mistake, and accept it, and using the bodhicitta, connecting others. Maybe there are millions of Western people who have the same thing, same guilt, same as you. And you can connect with those and use bodhicitta. I'm going to pray. None of those, may none of these experience that pain and suffering. And I am going to take it, if you can. Maybe mentally you can think that. Maybe emotionally sometimes you can. That relieves your pain. And if you use that, it's not just you. There are many others who do the same thing. That's the reason this bodhicitta path really helps us. So that's the reason I always tell Western students, do not let yourself lose present moment, the chances you have to fix, chances you have to develop yourself. Then you are not going to make same mistakes again. But a lot of us always lost the present moment, either just what you're saying, thinking past or future, and not focusing. If we focus now, here, be here, we may not make exact mistakes continuously. So I think it's better use of Vajrayana path to purify and accept. And also, if we can be this present moment, we won't have a lot of regrets because we do what we can do. But this is what my personal way of thinking, what I do. When I have a connection with people, I do my best to fulfill their wishes, including my friends, family. And when things change, I do not have regrets about it. So I will tell you this. I used to, my parents are gone, and my brother died 3 or 4 years ago. When they were alive, I made a commitment, because this is the separation we have. I love this part of the world. I have a situation between China and Tibet, as you know, and I cannot go back home. So we cannot be in the same space, but I made a commitment since I came to the West to really make sure, do what I can, and call them twice a day. And I never, ever really disappointed my family, my parents. I maintained that. It's not easy to lose them. But I do not have regrets. And I think, maybe once in a while, sometimes I have some small regrets, but mostly, I did everything I could. And some small things I could not fulfill, well, that's a samsara, No one is perfect. None of us is perfect. If we were perfect, why we are here? Right? Why we are suffering? Why we are here? We're not. That's the thing in Vajrayana Buddhist teachings, he said. We're human beings. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. We disappoint others. We disappoint ourselves. But the power of purification, we can purify. We can heal. We can heal that connection. We can heal our emotions. So this is what we do, always chase our emotions. So that's not smart to blame on yourselves or having that guilt. Use that feeling. It's not a bad thing to remember, I was not nice. I should never done that. But what can you do? You did it. In Tibet, we have a saying, when you throw your sled on the step,
On the dirt.
you cannot take it back. You can't. You don't want to. Instead of blaming constantly on yourself, just use it as a condition to improve your bodhicitta. It's not easy because that pattern is so strong. When it comes, it's like a hurricane, knocks you down. But get up and constantly, and at one point you can you can really take that. And then, if you keep doing it, and then you can transform it. I hope that helps. Yeah. That's all I have, but I don't. Maybe not.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
In talking about bodhicitta and some of the afflictive emotions, you've used the emotion of anger quite a bit this morning, and I'm wondering if you might shed a little bit of light on whether there's ever a time and a place for anger, and whether anger can be used skillfully with a good motivation or toward a good positive end. I'm thinking, for instance, to give a more timely example, if we look at situations where injustice is being perpetrated or abuse is being perpetrated, is it ever skillful to use anger as a way to move toward a positive outcome?
That really wasn't question.
Yeah.
Maybe Allison should answer that. And I will answer.
Yeah, I'll answer first. So, in order to really answer that question well, we have to think about the personal consequences of anger, right? So the personal consequences of anger are that we lose our mindfulness. When we're really angry, we don't know what we're saying, we don't know what we're doing. We're expressing a lot of negativity towards another person or people, and then that person has to deal with the consequence of what we've expressed. We damage that connection. And a lot of times that pattern, that emotional pattern is going to stay in our body with us for a long time, sometimes days. There's people who are angry for years. So when we think about like the personal consequences of anger, like my answer from that level is no. That is the actual Lojong teachings is if we are emotionally angry, there is no good result. But that doesn't mean that sometimes we shouldn't be strong. It doesn't mean that we don't set limits. It doesn't mean that we can't engage with others and put up a strong front. But that's very different than emotionally being angry and expressing that anger. Like if we're emotionally being angry and we're justifying that and saying like, I'm trying to get this good result, the seed of anger is negative, so there really can't be a good result. Just from the point of view of karma. So I think we have to distinguish, and the Dharma does distinguish between, are we trying to be skillful? Do we have compassion in the mind? But then we're engaging in a way that looks strong or intense or is setting strong boundaries? Or are we angry in the mind? So we can't think that the motivation of what's inside the mind and the way it looks are always the same. But if what we are saying is, does anger bring a good result? The answer is no. Are we always able to deal with our anger? Like, do we always have the skills to deal with our anger? No, we don't always have the skills to deal with it. Sometimes we express it even though we know it has a bad result. So I think you just have to think about all the different aspects of it. But Shantideva, when I really reflect on Shantideva's teachings on anger, and Shantideva says that, anger is like a spark that can destroy everything. It destroys all of the virtue that we've accumulated over this time. I have to, from that point of view, I have to say no. But I'm sure Rinpoche can give a better answer on top of that.
I'm not sure. But the anger itself, it's like fire. It burns everything. From that point of view, ordinary anger is something that we cannot use to reach
To make peace.
bring some peace. But everyone realized beings, like wrathful deities, the state of mind and realization is completely different. But they can express express that energy to tame others. But their mind is completely inseparable with bodhicitta. So expression looks like having anger, but they never use the quality of bodhicitta. So some realized lamas may have that. They express the wrathfulness. Maybe once in a while, maybe you can feel like, oh, this lama is angry. But his or her heart is embodying the quality of bodhicitta to help that being, particularly that being, to express. But you have to have a strong connection with that too. So it's a really like a hard thing to really say like, okay, anger is okay sometimes if like situation is like this, and then if the situation is like this, anger is not okay. Five poison is a five poison. And that
Binds us to
binds us to samsara, no matter what. But the thing is, if we're embodying the quality of bodhicitta, others may not immediately see that, but sooner or later, the power of the bodhicitta is better than using anger to achieve the goal we have. That's what I think. Because you just think like my lamas, they ended up in Chinese prison for 15 years, 20 years. First, those Chinese guards beat them and did all kinds of, they tortured them so much. They never expressed anger. Sometimes they hang them up and build fire and made them really hot, put them in ice, water, all kinds of things. Some of them lost their toes, all kinds of tortures. You have no idea, But they never express anger. And in the end, the guards became students of the lamas. So that's what I see, like the power of bodhicitta. And those guards at the end, they became really close students and came fast and said, you guys are like rock. No, there's no like anger or resentment. And we can take it, keep torturing. So a lot of Tibetan lamas who went through Chinese prison were like that. So from that point of view, just we can see, the power of compassion. Sooner or later, winner is the person who has the bodhicitta. Sooner or later, loser is the person who has five poisons. That's what I think. But from this like Western way of thinking, like politics, all these things, it's a little bit still. I do understand the idea, but still it's a little bit foreign idea. Yeah.
May I ask just a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So, would it be fair to say then that from the Buddhist view, there is a value judgment placed on an emotion such as anger, so that it is intrinsically wrong?
So from the point of view of the ordinary vehicle, yes, absolutely. Anger is a negative emotion which causes one to fall into the lower realms. From the point of view of the Vajrayana vehicle, if one is skillfully working with anger, anger can be transformed into the expression of wisdom, so there's no value judgment. But certainly, like when we're just thinking about the five poisons, like thinking about negative states of mind, we would have to be incredibly skillful to look like we were expressing anger about have bodhicitta. And because we're not at that level, then we're taught that anger is a negative state of mind. Because we just fool ourselves, right? I mean, we could fool ourselves and say, oh yeah, I really have this compassion in my mind, but then I'm gonna like yell at this person and like angry, you know. I think the main place where people get confused in Western culture is feeling like not expressing anger means that you have no boundaries. It means that you have boundaries and limits and that you're clear, but you just don't use anger to express them. You are watchful of your mind and watchful of your emotions, and you're skillful and you find a way to be strong that's not emotionally charged. I mean, that's kind of the place where we would go to as the middle ground. But having the view that not being angry means that you're a doormat is stupid. I mean, obviously that's not what anyone would advise.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're maybe thinking like being able to transform flat poisons into wisdom, things like that. It takes a long time to do that. It needs a lot of skills, you know. That means someone who can transform anger or liberating anger. A minute, anger arises and the liberation is there. So just think, that's a level, really high level realization. But also you can think like if we work this well bodhisattva path, like bodhicitta, embodying that quality a lot, you can express or setting the boundary or saying things that help that person, but at the same time your mind is completely peaceful.
Thank you.
So if you have a question, I will answer one more. Otherwise, we will do a sitting meditation. Do a sitting meditation, right?
Yeah.
When you were talking about bodhicitta aspiration, could you speak more about the vast benefit?
You want to say something? Or
You.
Well, for the vast benefit, the way I've heard Rinpoche talk about it to me that's like so persuasive is just thinking about the ordinary ways that we wish to benefit someone. So the ordinary ways that I wish to benefit people is to make them feel better right now, or to make sure they have food or clothing, or that they're healed from sickness, or that they have someone to take care of them, that they're not fearful in their, in their current situation. So all of these are the ordinary ways that we think bring the greatest benefit. And so when we think about this vast benefit, so bodhicitta is taught to be a benefit which is so much greater than this, because if someone were to be completely liberated from suffering and to attain liberation in the state of Buddhahood, they would always be separate from these difficulties, right? Like, our mind can really only think about this current moment. We're not thinking about it even from lifetime to lifetime, or all of the sufferings that this being is going to keep facing, and then all of the suffering that this being is going to keep suffering for themselves. But if we have bodhicitta, we're thinking, what can I do that's going to alleviate all those patterns? Well, I can personally be responsible for placing them in the state of Buddhahood, because once they have that realization, they're actually not capable of accumulating any more negative karma. And if they don't accumulate negative karma, then that karma is not going to ripen as all these ordinary sufferings that I want to save them from right now. So it really has to do with thinking about how when we're an ordinary person, we can really only try to alleviate one suffering at a time. All we can do is focus on what's happening right now. So this person's hungry and I'm going to feed them. This person is at the street corner begging for money and I'm going to give them money because they don't have any money. Or my daughter is weeping unconsolably right now and I'm going to comfort her. We can think about all the different ordinary things that we do that benefit people, but all we can do is just one suffering at a time. And when we think about the vast motivation of bodhicitta, we want to do something for every single sentient being that's going to take care of every possible suffering forever. And so it's a very vast motivation. We want to get rid of anything that could cause suffering to ripen. So maybe is that helpful? Or Rinpoche can say more maybe if it's not.
I think that's good. Yeah, I think all these are intellectual. And aspiration means we really need to make a lot of prayers, having that aspiration. Then wherever we are at one point, automatically we will be able to generate that aspiration of bodhicitta. Then it's much easier for us to work on engaged bodhicitta, like 6 paramita practices. Not like contaminated by our selfish reasons, gaining something or returning something. For example, if we're working on the paramita of generosity, if you're embodying that aspiration of bodhicitta, then that helps the quality of paramita of generosity. Otherwise, we're maybe giving things, but we have this goal, returning something. It's not going to be completely as a paramita of generosity. So aspirational bodhicitta, training that quality is really important. Of course, first, everything is introductory. You're welcome.
Gönlümden doğru boşluğuma kibarım, kekilçi, kibarın yanında metardan, konmayı kondum, berbaşo, rıkın değildir, çantamlama, çıkıtın çekil, apara, sonra, kirip, sıkındır, cizom, takıl, kekil, konmuş.